Thank you for being with us here today ahead of this meeting of Commissioners Court. Originally supposed to be a special meeting of Commissioners Court, which is a very, very brief meeting, lasts about 5 minutes, but we had to change it to a regular meeting, and it's probably going to be a long one because of the federal funds that are under threat due to the federal funding freeze and the inconsistent messages coming out of the White House and the federal government. So I want to address that situation that directly impacts the well-being of our residents. The administration's decision to temporarily halt the disbursement of federal grant funds is going to have a direct impact, or has the potential to have a direct impact on very important services that the county provides. Fiscal year 25, Harris County has more than $600 million in federal grants that have been awarded but are now at risk of being delayed or even rescinded. So $600 million are funds that either we receive directly or that funds that we spend and then are reimbursed for. So far, the $600 million, and again, this is just this year. Usually these are recurring funds. The bulk of it is for infrastructure, for disaster relief, specifically flooding, disaster relief related to flooding, and specifically building resiliency in response to that. We also have other programs that, relatively speaking, are smaller, but that basically cannot survive without these grants. So one is the Ryan White program. It provides healthcare and treatment for individuals with HIV/AIDS. It's on AIDS prevention. It's a program that developed under President Bush. Ship channel security grants. So this ensures the safety of one of the most critical pieces of infrastructure in Harris County. Imagine if something were to happen in our port and our ship channel. This helps us ensure that we have safety and security in that area. We have Urban Area Security Initiative grants. Those are go by UASI. These strengthen public safety and emergency preparedness and response. So year-round, when we talk about we're exercising and practicing that emergency response muscle, it's with these kinds of funds. And of course, as I mentioned, disaster relief funds. There's 50 sheriff deputies that are funded by grants. So these are folks for motorist assistance and many, many others. Long story short, this freeze could mean delays in public safety initiatives, infrastructure, health services. Why do I say could? Because right now this is tied up in the courts. And so the federal government simply refusing to disburse funds that we need is something that right now they're not able to do thanks to a legal stopgap that has been put on there. So we're really waiting to see what's going to happen with that. However, the grants that we depend on reimbursement for, we are already seeing delays with. So we're not sure whether or not we're going to be reimbursed for those funds that we're spending. And of course, we're counting on those reimbursements for our budget to be sustainable. So we are right now have a few strategies, and Director Ramos can answer questions as to that. So one is to cap how much we are owed by the federal government. So this protects Harris County from being basically in the red in an unsustainable financial position, but that is at the detriment of taxpayers and these important services. So essentially, what we're hoping will pass in Commissioner's Court today is to say, once we have $45 million in funds that we expect reimbursement for, we are not going to be able to continue the programs past that $45 million. As I said, a large chunk of that $600 million is reimbursement based, so this is going to have an impact. And then another piece is, of course, the posture that the county attorney has. And so that posture is around, we're not going to return funds voluntarily that we do not believe need to be returned. We're going to fight everything in the courts. There's another detail here that Commissioner Ellis and Director Ramos will explain around $30 million and how we're using that. But we're also working with federal and local partners to try to expedite the spending of awarded funds, specifically our grants around Solar for All. This is a major grant we received to promote solar energy, solar panels, and then other American Rescue Plan projects. However, many of those projects can't be sped up without compromising quality and compliance. Finally, we're in communication with our congressional delegation. I don't want to pretend that obviously we're on one side of the aisle that's different than Commissioner Ellis and I, different than that one that is in charge right now. And so, unfortunately, the influence that we can have is not the same that we did with the prior administration, but we can have a presence in order to know what is happening, what's going on in the ground, and that allows us to plan ahead. So really, to conclude, this freeze threatens real services for real people, and we need the public support in this. We would like for folks to continue calling their congressional representatives, particularly, from both parties, and just keep paying attention to this, because it really is something that's going to impact every person here in Harris County, and has the potential to. Let me just very, very briefly summarize in Spanish, and then I'll pass it on to Commissioner Ellis. Estamos aquí en esta rueda de prensa. No era nada planeado, la reunión de hoy iba a ser muy corta, una reunión por ahí de 5 minutos, pero se extendió por esto que está sucediendo, la congelación de fondos por parte del gobierno federal. Hay un riesgo de que la administración de servicios vitales se vea limitada. Entonces hay alrededor de $600 millones en fondos federales que nos han otorgado para este año fiscal del 2025. $600 millones son programas, por ejemplo, para la protección contra desastres naturales, para luchar contra el SIDA, el VIH, también el Ship Channel, el canal de Houston, para proteger eso contra algún ataque, inclusive, más fondos de seguridad, e inclusive diputados del alguacil, alrededor de 50, reciben sus salarios por parte del gobierno federal. Entonces, si estos fondos continúan congelados, vamos a ver retrasos en proyectos de infraestructura, de seguridad pública y servicios de salud. ¿Qué estamos haciendo? Bueno, en este momento, gracias a las Cortes, no han parado la distribución de fondos que nos otorgan inicialmente. Eso está ahorita en las Cortes, vamos a ver qué sucede. El problema que sí tenemos es que varios de esos programas funcionan en manera de reembolso. Entonces, ya hemos invertido los fondos, estamos esperando que nos reembolsen y nos estamos dando cuenta que ese reembolso viene muy despacio. Entonces, lo que estamos haciendo ya es limitando ciertos programas para ver que no vamos a gastar más de $45 millones en programas de reembolso sin recibir ese reembolso. ¿Qué significa eso? Que hay programas que se van a ver muy limitados. En total, lo que pedimos es que por favor presten atención a esto. Si pueden, llamen a su representante en el Congreso. Es un tema importante, lo estamos luchando en las Cortes aquí de manera de presupuesto, pero quiero que todos estén informados y esa es parte de la discusión de hoy. Let me pass it on to Commissioner Ellis.
Thank you, Judge. I have not given up on a 5-minute meeting necessarily. The reason that we started having this business court was because I think our longest court meeting was 15 hours. So since this won't be 5 minutes, I'm hoping 5 hours will be what we do. There are a host of other items on the agenda that we will consider as well, since members, including me, started putting other items on the agenda when I got the call saying we needed to do a business court meeting. Here are the numbers you ought to remember. $600 million a year at risk that we know about. In this cycle, maybe a bit more, because we got an unprecedented amount of ARPA money. Some of that could still be at risk. The judge made reference to some money we have gotten that there have been threats about pulling it back, and the county attorney can address that. This was a quick press conference, so he's not here with us this morning, but he can address that in more detail. Remember, $600 million a year that we get in federal money, virtually every year. $15 million a month is about what we spend in operating money from those federal funds. And that $15 million a year, if it's not there, will have a ripple effect throughout our budget on numerous other programs. And then we're gonna move $30 million from our general fund as a reserve until we figure out what's going on. Once we get over that $30 million, either we're gonna have an emergency meeting or we're gonna have to do some emergency measures because we'll be at the end of the road. Last comment I wanna make is, we're obviously in unprecedented times, not just for Harris County, which as you know is larger than 26, 27 states. Some of us are going to NACO conference, National Association of Counties Conference in Washington, D.C. this weekend. Counties all around the country are having the same dilemma to deal with. I was in Los Angeles last weekend visiting with some county officials. They are worried, and that budget is about $47 billion, considerably larger than what we spend in Harris County. So we are sounding the alarm. We're asking people to call their members of Congress. They ought to be concerned about it. We are here to make some noise because it is an unprecedented challenge for Harris County. With that, I'll turn it over to the Budget Director, Mr. Ramos.
Hi, everyone. I'm available for any questions you might have.
If you could just generally sum up, how is this affecting the budget now and possibly in the future? As Judge Hidalgo mentioned, borrowing funds, paying them back.
Sure. So we typically have somewhere between $70 and $150 million of unreimbursed expenses, either expenses we've had that we're preparing to submit to the federal government or have submitted and are awaiting the check. What we've seen is that that number has climbed as there's these uncertainty, especially at the departments, the federal departments, about what's staying and what's going. And so what we're doing is we're going to put a cap on our exposure by saying, we're willing to go up $30 million from that $70 million average to protect these programs, to be able to give, an off-boarding plan for our sub-grantees as well as our county departments that might be impacted. So as of right now, we're still in wait and see and hope that we're not going to have a direct impact, but we need to be able to hedge our risk in some ways, because there's a world where we were out, $200 million waiting for a check, and that would have a dramatic impact on how we approach next year's budget cycle.
The biggest one I saw was Solar for All. You may walk through the numbers on that.
Sure. Solar for All is about $250 million total, and that is a consortium of not just Harris County, but other Texas counties and cities.
Particularly in terms of the budget, I'm concerned about healthcare. What part of that healthcare budget in terms of providing services to the community?
So that would probably, our Harris Health would probably be the best person to explain the direct impacts to them. I know that they've started planning around not having as much federal reimbursement given the cuts to Medicaid and Medicare that seem to be on the horizon. We're not impacted so much directly, though. What we see is when people don't have health care, they're coming through Ben Taub and LBJ, and so there will be a downstream effect as more people are uninsured. We're going to have to shell out more in order to provide care for them.
Judge Hidalgo, will you take a few questions?
Yeah, and let me just add on that. At the same time, obviously, the state government is making it more difficult for us to collect revenue. And so, you're kind of getting squeezed up from both sides. And, of course, we're doing everything we can. We're being creative. We're leaning forward, but we also want people to be aware. Yeah, any other questions?
Can you talk about measles? What's the county doing to prevent an outbreak of measles? And the budget delays, budget cuts, does that have anything to do with it?
So right now, our public health department is working on reaching out to providers, to community organizations, et cetera, schools, to ask anybody who does not have that vaccine, is the MMR vaccine, correct, folks? The MMR vaccine, to please go get it. We offer it at Harris County Public Health. You can find our phone number. We'll provide it after the press conference. And of course, you can ask your primary care physician. But, it's not something to play around with. We already had a child die. This kind of outbreak is not normal at that size that we're seeing in West Texas. And we do have the rodeo coming up. And we have spring break coming up. And we know people are going to be traveling to Harris County. And we don't want to be the next epicenter of measles. Right now, we are prioritizing our public health resources toward that end. And so the federal funding freeze is not affecting our response to measles.
Can you respond to that in Spanish, please?
Sí, entonces, measles en español, ¿cómo es?
¿Viruela?
Viruela. Ok, la viruela, como saben, en este momento hay más de 100 personas con viruela en el oeste de Texas y es porque hay muchas personas, muchos jóvenes especialmente, que no han recibido esa vacuna. Entonces, hoy día pues estamos trabajando en el condado Harris para proteger a nuestros propios residentes. Nuestro departamento de salud pública está trabajando con escuelas, está trabajando con organizaciones comunitarias y obviamente proveedores de salud para abogar por el uno vacunarse. Es la vacuna MMR, la vacuna contra la viruela. Usted puede ir a pedírsela a su doctor o por medio de nuestro departamento de salud pública también la ofrecemos, entonces nos puede dar una llamada. Pero miren, viene el rodeo, viene el spring break, y ¿qué sucede? Que en esas ocasiones viene mucha gente fuera del condado Harris, fuera de nuestra región, aquí a visitar. Es bueno para la economía, es divertido y tal, pero ¿qué sucede? No queremos ser el siguiente epicentro de la viruela. Entonces, por favor, si no tiene esa vacuna, por favor, vacúnese. Esto es algo que ya se había manejado, el tener más de 100 personas con viruela, inclusive un niño que murió. Eso no es normal. No es normal y no queremos ver eso en el condado Harris. Entonces, estamos haciendo todo lo posible, pero necesitamos que usted, sus niños, quien usted conozca, que por favor tenga esa vacuna.
Another question, unrelated. Could you talk about the attorney fees? Was that discussed? And tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, so one of the items on Commissioner's Court today is another set of reimbursements for attorney's fees that were spent in defense of the political prosecution that Kim Mogg and Rachel Hooper, the Republican lawyer in Texas, the top lawyer in Texas at the time, carried out. And so I've received some questions about, how does that work? And why are those funds, where did those funds initially come from? So there are 3 folks getting reimbursed today. In the past, we've already had, I think, we've had at least $500,000, maybe $700,000 reimbursed.
$500,000.
At least, yeah. So Commissioner Ellis reimbursed
To my campaign.
to his campaign. So basically, our the folks that for example, my staff members, right, that were reimbursed. Or that were attacked, they're going to be coming with those reimbursements. But what I want folks to understand, this policy of reimbursement when somebody is not indicted or found not guilty is a guardrail against specifically unscrupulous prosecutors. And so why do we have this? Because this started during my campaign year, right? So Kim Mogg was trying to essentially bleed my campaign dry so that I couldn't compete in the election, right? And any prosecutor, any unscrupulous prosecutor could do that. That's also why we reimburse our public servants. We've reimbursed several of them in terms of this issue, because an unscrupulous prosecutor could drive somebody out of government service. And several folks were driven out of government service, not because of the money, but because of the trauma. Some other folks are still here. And so, the way these reimbursements work, essentially I spent almost $700,000 out of my political account. This was a political attack, so I had to pay for it out of the political account. And of course, I don't have $700,000, but it was funds that my donors gave to me for the purposes of being elected. And so, as has been done with my colleagues already, the funds will go to the law firms that have already been paid by me, and then will come back to my political account. I won by a hair, right? And so I think Kim Mogg almost got what she wanted. And that's why, my colleague here, I think my other colleague as well, even though they spent the funds from their political accounts, we don't want that to be something that a prosecutor can just do. So that's something on the agenda today. I know folks have questions about it, and we still have yet to see 2 more of my colleagues seeking reimbursement. I think that's probably going to be another $1 million or so. As we said, Commissioner had $500,000 minus $700,000, and that's not to count all the money that Kim Mogg spent on her attorneys, on Rachel Hooper, that made the Texas Rangers spend. that made the courts spend. And I want folks to know also that these funds have been budgeted for, correct, Director Ramos? So this, because we knew that this was unscrupulous and folks were being reimbursed as things began to wind down, part of our budget was to set money aside to reimburse folks in accordance with our policy. So this does not have a negative impact on our budget. Is there anything to add about
Just
that?
one quick clarification. We budget centrally for legal fees as well as any claims against us. So it was not necessarily specific to this investigation. We just budget knowing that at various points we're going to need to defend ourselves. Like in the case of SB 23, the SB 23 violation from the state comptroller, we hired outside counsel to represent us. In the same, we also had there are judgments against us or settlements that we engage in. So we budget for that centrally is not necessarily specific to any particular case.
Right, and but for reimbursements as well.
Yep.
Right, so we've had to reimburse individuals from unscrupulous prosecutions by KMOG around the elections, around public health.
I think I may have gotten some more from the so-called ballot harvesting issue. I
Ballot
just can't
harvest. I mean,
remember.
you know, there's
I think
just
there might have been another 75,000.
yeah. So it's been a lot of incursions by her, and that ultimately turned into nothing. But anyway, I think we have another interview.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just have one follow-up.
Yeah.
What will happen today? The vote will be to transfer the funds, or?
So the vote is to reimburse the individuals who are up for reimbursement today. So I'm on there, you know, my name's on there because I'm a public servant, and then there's two other individuals that are seeking reimbursement as to the same matter, and their names, I don't know, may become
I think
public
the
at
money
some
goes
point.
to the
Yeah.
law firm. I know I
Yeah.
was asked, and I couldn't remember. So I think when I was reimbursed, the money went to the law firm, and then the law firm reimbursed my campaign. I don't think the county would write a check to me on my campaign. I'd probably have a tax issue. So I know they were trying to run it down. I couldn't remember, so I think they would check it with the budget office or somebody. But I'm pretty sure the reimbursement would go to the law firm. And if the law firm has already been paid, that was the case in mine.
Right.
The law firm reimbursed my
The political
campaign.
account. Yeah, right.
Okay.
So that was the case with me. You know, we already paid the law firm almost $700,000, the various law firms over 3 years. Of course, it was a very, very wide-ranging prosecution. I had to keep tabs on all of the 3 staff members, a number of documents. My attorney actually here in the office received a $500,000 reimbursement. You know, some people ask why so much. It's in line with the folks that had to put in just that amount of work. You know, commissioner, others who are also not indicted. That's just what it costs. And attorneys are obviously very expensive. So, but what is the word? Okay. Yeah.
Me equivoqué, la palabra no es viruela,
Ajá.
es sarampión.
Sarampión, okay.
Esa ni fui.
Okay. No, and then she said, repeat the word. I'm like, well, what is the word? Okay, bueno, entonces vamos a hablar del sarampión. Aquí en el condado Harris, gracias a Dios, no tenemos casos de sarampión como lo que se está viendo en el oeste de Texas, pero estamos en riesgo. Y ese riesgo se debe a las personas que no están vacunadas contra el sarampión. Entonces, les pedimos que por favor se vacunen. La vacuna está disponible con su doctor, inclusive con nuestro Departamento de Salud Pública. ¿Y por qué es importante en este momento? Porque ya viene el rodeo, viene el spring break, y va a venir mucha gente aquí al condado que no vive aquí. Normalmente vamos a congregarnos en grupos, y es una situación ideal para que se contagie la gente de sarampión. Es una enfermedad seria, y esta cantidad de contagios en el oeste de Texas no es normal. Esos números no son normales. Ya esa enfermedad está bajo control. Entonces, hagamos nuestra parte, por favor, al vacunarnos.
What was the word? The word for measles in Spanish?
Sarampión. Yeah.
Sarampión.
Sarampión.
Okay, I
Yeah.
want to avoid it.
Yes, let's avoid the sarampión. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director.